Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following message that you are going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and that translation, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? I am a woman who is aged 32 years. My father is still alive, but as for my mom, she has since passed away. But my mom and my father, they are very evil. A lot of things happened when we were still growing up. My father and my mother, they had their property. My father is still staying at that house even right now. So the way that my parents were able to raise us up, it was because they had a lot of tenants. They had some back rooms, and even inside the house they had some tenants that were renting out a few rooms. But the evil thing that my father used to do is that my father, he kept this strange dry African sweeping broom. This African sweeping broom that my father always kept in his bedroom. Even my own mother was forbidden to touch this African sweeping broom. It was only I who was allowed to touch this African sweeping broom, but not all the times. Whenever there will be a ritual that my father would want to perform, that is when he would allow me to use his African sweeping broom, but he always kept it locked up in his bedroom. So whenever my father would wake up and whenever he would take out that broom, then we would know that something is going to happen. Usually after sweeping, one of his relatives would come so as to visit us. This always happened each and every time that he would sweep the compound using that sweeping broom. There will be someone that will come and visit him. And my brother, if any of our new tenants, like people were always moving in and out, so if there will be a new tenant that would come to stay at our house, if this new tenant was like a Christian, my father, what he will do is that he will pretend as if he is a Christian as well and get used to this new tenant. But later on, my father will say to me, my daughter, I want you to go and take a bucket, and after taking that bucket, I want you to fill up that bucket with water, and I want you to bring it here. I would go outside and I will fill up that bucket with water and return it back to my father. My father will then give me that African sweeping broom, and he would say, soak this broom. So I would do as such, and after that my father will call me late at night. But on that night when we will be performing this ritual, my father will totally refuse to touch that sweeping broom. I don't know why. So when I would have followed my father going outside, just walking around the compound, holding that bucket full of water and that broom that I would have soaked throughout the day, my father would walk around as he would be pointing at the ground as if he was looking for something. What he was looking for, I never understood. So he would point at something. Then my father will say, come here, come sprinkle the water here. So I would dip that broom into that bucket, and after that I would use that wet broom to sprinkle the water around the compound. Whenever this thing would happen, my brother, the person that would have been targeted by my father will find themselves facing a lot of challenges, and most of these challenges that they were facing, they were usually your poverty struggles. And a lot of people that used to come and stay at our house, most of them, when they would come, you could see that these people, they are able to provide a better life for themselves. But whenever my father will call me out late at night to perform this ritual, those people would sink so deep into poverty so quickly that you would even question yourself. At our house, there were people that used to have cars that will come and start staying at our house, but it was as if there was a spirit of poverty that was always staying at our house, because whoever came to our house to stay with a car that belonged to them, they would end up selling their car so that they can just pay rent. This thing, it kept on happening over and over again. And one thing that I noticed is that my father, he would only target those people that were Christians. If you would make a mistake whereby you would invite people from your church, my father will target you and he will send the spiritual attacks to you. My brother, by the time that we were all grown up, I then found a man who loved me, and I got married to that man, and me and him, we were like praying each and every day. My brother, when I got married to my husband, the day that I went on my knees, it was as if I had insulted the devil, because as I was praying, then my father called my husband. So my husband called my husband, and then as they were speaking, my husband spoke with me, and he told me that my father had called him. He was just speechless. I then answered the call. As I was speaking with my father, he was shouting at me, and he was shouting at me. He was angry at me. He actually demanded that I should return back home on that same night, and I said I cannot return back home. We kept on praying, and we kept on praying whilst we were praying against the spirit of anti-marriage, because at that time my husband had said that it was far much better that I break up with my own husband, and I was not willing to break up with my husband just because my father wanted me to break up with my husband. After we had prayed, the next morning my father called again, and he apologized, and he said that he was just an old man and he was missing me, and he wanted me to return back home. But he didn't mean anything that he had said the previous night. But who does that, my brother? And after this thing, we stopped communicating with my parents. This was after one of the church elders at that church that we were attending had a revelation, and when the church elder was speaking with us, I immediately knew that the person whom he had seen in that revelation was no one but my own mother. With the spiritual attacks that we were facing at that time, and I was pregnant, me and my husband, we had decided that we should never update my parents about this pregnancy. But what surprised us is that one day, we were not even thinking about it, my husband received a phone call. He was at work at that time. My mother was in town. She then said that she didn't have any money. She was stuck in town, so she wanted my husband to come and collect her so that she can come and see the place where we were staying, because at that time God had blessed us and we had actually bought a house. So my mother had never came to our house, so she said that she wanted to come and see me. My brother, at that time when my husband informed me, this was around 3 p.m. I then said to my husband, you need to come here first, because my husband had said that, but my mom-in-law, she seems to know that you are pregnant. Did you tell her that you are pregnant? And I said, no, I didn't tell her, but she had maybe used her spiritual powers to see that I was pregnant. So my husband rushed from work first, and we spoke about this issue. We were confused. We didn't know what to do. We ended up calling the elder from church who was staying in the same street that we were staying. Then after calling that elder, she came, then she started praying. As she was praying, it was like she had a revelation, because she suddenly said that, God, may you rain down fire from heaven in this house, so that if this woman who wants to come here, if she is planning to leave evil charms or an evil spirit, she must not be able to spend a night in this house, because the fire is going to burn her and she will run away. At that time, my brother, after this prayer had been said, my husband then returned back to the city to collect my mom, since she was saying that she was stuck in town. After my husband had collected my mom, they both returned back. And when they returned back, I was locked up in the bedroom because we didn't know what to do. And after that, my husband lied to her that I had actually traveled to my husband's village so that I can see my in-laws. Then my mom said, can I have your number? At that time, I didn't even have my mother's numbers, and she had deleted my numbers as well. My husband then gave her my phone numbers. He tried calling me, and I had already switched off my phone since I was hearing everything that my mother was saying. My mom then suddenly changed, and she said that I cannot sleep in this house anymore. I want to return back to my house. And she was like, please return me back now. I do not want to stay another single minute being in this house. It was as if spiritually there was something that was happening. Then my husband said to my mom, why can't you sleep here until she returns back from the village. But my mom, she said, no, please take me to town. I will make a plan. And when my husband went out with my mother and left her in town, when my husband returned back, the first thing that he did is that he started laughing at my mom's behavior. He said that throughout their journey, when they were going to town, my husband said that my mom was feeling as if she was locked up inside a pit of fire. She was complaining. It was as if she wanted to remove all of her clothes. She removed her jacket, but still she kept on complaining about how hot it was inside that car. She started complaining about the car's aircon not working at all. But this car, it was a good car that was even used by my husband's boss. Everything in that car was working properly. But the way that my husband told me that my mom was complaining, it was as if she was locked up in a place that was very hot, like in a pit of fire. When my husband had returned back, we then called the church elder and we told the church elder everything that had happened. We prayed even further. On my mother's funeral, a lot of things happened, and my brother, at her funeral, people didn't even understand what was going on because there was just confusion. It was just a confusing funeral. And right now, my father is still alive. Whenever I am home, I try to go and see my father because he's my parent. But let me tell you something about my father. If you inform my father that you are going to come and visit him, you will find that you will be having a lot of money. It is like he has this remote control or a spirit that informs him that there is someone that is coming to visit him. But if you visit my father without giving him any notice, you will find my father being in a bad health. Sometimes you can even see blood flowing from his nose. But what I have realized is that my father is an evil man. So was my late mother. I do not hate her, but she was an evil woman. But by the grace of God, I survived most of the spiritual attacks that I survived. If I start telling you about those spiritual attacks, I can finish the whole day just telling you different spiritual attacks that I faced when I was pregnant. But I am thankful to God that God saved me. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our admins. Then we had to give you this translation. Please let us talk about this issue in the comment section.